Hey guys, it's Chris. A hippo, a llama, and an angry wildebeest. Here are 10 times animals turned against their owners, with deadly consequences. Number 10. Shepherd trampled. Little Bo Peep, watch out for your sheep. A woman trying to shepherd her sheep across the road ended up being attacked by her very own herd. Everything was going fine until a car approached along a quiet country road. Obviously, sheep are skittish, and this loud vehicle must have startled them because they lost their minds. The sheep freaked out at the sound of the incoming vehicle, the shepherd's dog became distracted by the car, and the sheep attacked their owner. They rammed into the back of the woman's legs, knocking her over. Then they began headbutting the poor woman as she lay in the street. She was stomped on and ravaged by the angry animals. And just as the sheep backed off and she tried to stand up, one came at her from behind and knocked her over again. After the woman was knocked down the second time, the sheep ran away. By the time she got up, her sheep were fleeing on the other side of the road, trying to escape into the trees. She wasn't gravely injured by the incident, but with the help of her dog, she got the sheep back in order. Maybe next time she won't underestimate her flock. Could you imagine in your wildest dreams a flock of peaceful sheep turning into murderous creatures? I never knew that sheep could become such violent maniacs. Number 9. Eaten by his dog. This is sad but true. Something must have gone totally wrong with this man and his dog for the events that transpired here to have even happened at all. But it's true. A man was recently eaten by his own dog in India. As horrifying as this is to hear, it's a thing that happens from time to time, although it seems as though this dog was mistreated or otherwise badly socialized to be this violent. A farm caretaker named Manny Ram was untying the farm's guard dog, a Rottweiler named Tiger, when it violently turned on him. The second that the dog was free, it locked its jaws around the man's throat and literally choked him to death. It was as if the dog was waiting for the exact moment that the restraints came off before lunging in for attack. According to eyewitnesses, the dog didn't stop at simply strangling his owner to death. Then he ripped off pieces of flesh from Manny Ram's face, hands, and chest and ate them. Police eventually arrived on the scene. They were horrified at what they found. The man had been torn apart. It took them 4 hours to catch the dog and bring it into police custody. According to the superintendent of the local police, everyone was too scared to get close to it. The dog has now been deemed too dangerous to be kept with humans, and he'll likely be euthanized. Number 8. Escape from the slaughterhouse. Polish cow did the unthinkable as it was on its way to certain doom. It attacked its owners and escaped from the slaughterhouse. This bold animal managed to liberate itself from death while its owner was trying to usher it to the abattoir to be killed for its meat. The cow got away by ramming through a metal fence and making a dash for safety. When the cow's owner tried to get him back to the farm, it managed to break one of the man's arms. The cow then took off like a wild horse, entered the water of nearby Lake Nysa in the south of Poland, and then swam to a small island positioned in the middle of the lake. According to the cow's owner, he stood there with his broken arm, watching in disbelief as the cow literally dove underwater on its way to the island. But the story doesn't stop here. The cow managed to find sanctuary on the small lake island. The cow's owner tried to get him back for over a week and failed at every attempt, and since then, he's just kind of accepted that the cow has won its freedom. This crazy escape artist managed to cheat its date with death, and unlike most other escapees, no one's going to apprehend or punish it. The cattle breeder left the cow alone and decided not to have it shot, and a local politician even announced that it would be protected and allowed to live out its life in nature. You know, I'd never have expected any cow to try something like this, let alone succeed. Number 7. Killed by a llama. A woman in Ohio was killed after her pet llama accidentally murdered her. The llama didn't exactly turn against the woman. On the contrary, the excited animal rushed to greet its owner, slipped on a piece of wet pavement, rammed into the woman, and knocked her over. And she hit her head so hard on the pavement that she had a heart attack and died. That's the kind of freak accident you think only happens in a movie, but this was real. Ironically, the llama's name is Baby Doll, and after the accidental death of her owner, she needed to find a new home along with the rest of the woman's pets. Animal experts said the llama definitely didn't act out of malice, though she was undoubtedly plagued by guilt after what happened. The truth here is that llamas can be deadly whether they intend to be or not. This is especially true when dealing with larger llama males, who can get aggressive when they feel threatened. Better not invade their personal space. Number 6. Safari of Death. Wes Mathewson was a 68-year-old owner of a safari lodge and a conservationist. He was also the owner of 2 white lionesses who mauled him to death in a savage case of pet lions gone wrong. It all happened when West unlocked the lionesses' gate to take them for their routine morning walk, but the lionesses had something else planned. After the gate was open, they pounced on their owner and mauled him to shreds. West's wife tried to distract the two big cats, but it was too late. West's injuries were fatal and he died shortly after. This happened at the Lion Tree Top Lodge near Johannesburg in South Africa, but that wasn't the first time the lionesses had been involved in a death. Years before, in 2017, the lionesses worked together to kill a man from the neighboring property after escaping from their cage. At the time, it was ruled that excessively rough play caused the deaths, but after they viciously mauled their owner, it looked like these lionesses had a taste for blood. They're now being taken away from the safari lodge and released back into the wild, where they can savage beasts as much as they want. So would you ever work on a wild, exotic animal rescue? It sounds like a lot of terrifying experiences I'd personally never want to have. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Then remember to subscribe to World List if you haven't already. Number 5. Wildebeest Carnage. A man in Indiana has been slain by his very own wildebeest. This guy had a menagerie of exotic animals on his farm in northern India. One of his favorite animals was a giant wildebeest that weighed at least 500 pounds. The wildebeest, which is essentially an African antelope, cornered this owner in the barnyard behind his home and pounded him to death. So far, nobody's really sure what motivated these animals to commit what appeared to be a premeditated murder. The man's wife found him dead on the ground in the barnyard and called paramedics, but unfortunately it was already too late. According to the coroner's office, the wildebeest had used its horns, which had been cut down for safety, to beat the man until he fell on the ground, at which point he was trampled. The official cause of death was blunt force trauma. The best motive that wildlife experts can come up with is that because there was a female wildebeest nearby, the animal felt threatened by its human master. To have a better chance of mating with the female wildebeest, the angry animal took out the competition. Could you imagine? This wildebeest thought the human was going to stop him from breeding and said no way. Number 4. The deadly black mamba. A woman living in her New York home was bitten by one of the deadliest snakes in the entire world. Aletta Stacy was bitten by a deadly black mamba and found dead on the floor of her home where she lived with 75 other snakes, most of them highly venomous. That's right, she lived with dozens of venomous snakes, seriously. So was she crazy? I mean, I kind of think so. How much would someone have to pay you to live with 75 dangerous snakes? But she did it out of the love for the reptiles. Initial reports from police suggest that the woman was bit accidentally while cleaning the glass aquarium where the black mamba lived. And yeah, that does seem pretty reasonable. Black mambas are dangerously fast and highly aggressive when threatened, and responsible for heaps of deaths every year where they live in Africa. It's no surprise that the black mamba sunk its fangs into its owner. What makes this really sad, though, is that Stacy probably could have survived had she phoned emergency services right away. She could have gotten treatment, but instead she didn't call 911 right away. She ended up dying within 20 minutes of the bite. Officials then had to go into her home and clear out the rest of the dangerous serpents, finding that 56 of them were poisonous enough to potentially kill a human. All the snakes were then taken to the Bronx Zoo. Number 3. When bears go wrong. Kellyanne Waltz was cleaning the cage of her pet black bear when the 350-pound animal attacked. She was discovered Sunday night dead at the scene. The situation surrounding her death is nothing short of scandalous. First of all, Kelly's husband was licensed in 1994 to keep and sell exotic animals, according to the LA Times. But his license expired years ago. Despite an expired license, he continued to keep animals like black bears, lions, leopards, and even tigers on his property in Pennsylvania. Then there's the accident itself. Kelly, in order to clean the bear's cage, distracted the animal with a handful of dog food. She threw the dog food to one side and then began to clean the other side, but during the cleaning, the bear got bored with the dog food and attacked the pesky human. Unfortunately, her children witnessed the attack, and they're probably traumatized for life, and her neighbor hurried to the rescue and shot the bear dead, but it was already too late. Kellyanne Waltz will never clean another bear cage again. I guess the bear was sick of being fed dog food. Number 2, the family hippo. Marius Els raised his beloved pet Humphrey the hippo since the animal was just 5 months old. Marius was a farmer in South Africa who loved his hippo like a son. He was so devoted to his giant pet that he built a lake on his farm for Humphrey to swim in, hoping to mimic his natural habitat. Marius first took Humphrey for some people who had rescued the poor hippopotamus from a flood when he was just a baby. Humphrey became part of the family. Marius fed Humphrey every day himself and even brushed the hippo's big square teeth. Marius once told reporters that he and Humphrey shared a relationship that people just couldn't understand. He would sometimes even ride on Humphrey's back. But love turned to tragedy in 2011 when Marius was bitten to death by Humphrey. Nobody knows exactly what happened, but Marius was discovered in the very same river where Humphrey had been rescued almost a decade earlier, ravaged by bite marks and other brutal injuries that could only have been caused by a hippopotamus. When paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could do. Marius was gone. It's hard to say what exactly transpired between him and his hippo, but in the end, it looks like you just can't be friends with a hippo, no matter how tame and friendly it seems. Number 1. Mauled by her dogs. A woman in Warren County was pronounced dead after being mauled to death by her own dogs. According to the Dayton Daily News, Mary Matthews was found by her husband in the home where they lived together with 2 Great Danes. Evidence from inside the house suggested that Matthews was attacked on the floor by both dogs, but managed to force them outside, at which point she bled out. Her husband found her on the bathroom floor. But this was likely not a healthy home for the dogs. Mary's husband had been jailed for the 2 days prior because of a failure to pay child support. In cases like this, it's almost always because the dogs were treated poorly and didn't know any better than to attack. Maybe if Mary had given her dogs a little more affection, they wouldn't have ripped her apart like a stuffed animal. Have you ever had a pet turn against you? Or maybe somebody you know? Let me know about it in the comments, and thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back again for another awesome video.